About a week ago, I finished reading Loltop Stoddart's The Rising Tide of Colour, and after that I read Madison Grant's The Passing of the Great Race. I'm now on another book by Loltop Stoddart called, and I'm not getting the title correct here, but anyway, The Enemies of Civilization, The Rising of the Underman. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's a very interesting read, and of course Stoddart right off the bat, he talks about how bringing in races that were incapable of creating civilization would obviously lead to civilizational decline in the West. And he even has a pecking order. He says that the Australian Aborigines and the African Bushmen, he considers them more or less to be savages. And then above the savage is the barbarian, and he includes many of the Asian races and of course Africans as well, black Africans, as barbarians. They can make life a little bit better but for themselves, but not much. They can't get beyond the creation of a canoe practically. So that's only the start of it, and then he gets into the meat and bones of it. I say this and I'm only on chapter 2. But yeah, he talks about how in civilization you're going to have a large number of people who are below the standard for maintaining a civilization or improving upon it. And he calls these the undermen. And these people, he says, generally are full of resentment. And he initially calls them the inferiors, but he says inferior is a synonym of degenerate, and he says he wants to differentiate the two, and he says degenerates obviously are, they commit sexual crimes, they are constantly in prison, no sooner are they out of prison than they reoffend. And he said that in a pre-civilizational state, these people would be weeded out very quickly, but in civilization, in civilized society, these people thrive. They're able to reproduce at an alarming rate. But then you have probably the majority, which is the inferior or the underman, who cannot cope with civilization and the tasks at hand that would maintain civilization. And these people become resentful because they know they're incapable of prospering. So you have the degenerates and you have the masses, which are the undermen, and they're biding their time. They're waiting for a revolution. They want to get even. They are the enemies of civilization, more or less. And you can throw into the mix, I think, two more. One is the disinherited. So people who are of good stock in that they are well able to advance civilization, not just maintain it but advance it, and yet they haven't been given a fair crack at the whip. They've been thrown onto the rubbish heap by the top brass. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can somewhat relate to the idea that for all your talents, you've been disinherited by the system. And these people are also biding their time, hoping for a revolution, because they feel that their skills have been made redundant by the system, most likely due to crony nepotism, etc. And then you've got this other type in the mix. I forget what he calls them, but these people have very high notions of themselves. They believe that they're superior to everyone else, and for them, unlike the underman who feels that the civilization is beyond his ken, these types, these ivory tower types, I'll call them, they believe that the civilization is way behind them and they want to advance it in a certain direction. So they are always ready and willing to join the mix when it comes to a revolution that will destroy the old ways and, you know, bring in a new order. But he says these are like the useful idiots. Unfortunately, these ivory tower types, they succumb very quickly to the new system because the underman absolutely despises them. The underman will champion them for a while, but then slowly but surely will take them apart, line them up against a wall and shoot them. So yeah, before I started this book, this latest one, a few days ago I saw an advertisement. It was for a food delivery company, and there's so many of them now, and this has become a way of life that people, they have an app, and the app makes someone come to their door with food. And the advertisement was of this. It's become, I've seen this type of person. It's a kind of a new type of human being. You know, it's the latest evolution of the human being within civilization, and this is one of the problems of civilization. It can, instead of honing our skills, it can really put our skills into abeyance. And this guy epitomized it. The guy in the advertisement, he was morbidly obese. You know, he has a head, he has no neck. The head just kind of melts into the shoulders. He has that hipster beard. He's a fat hipster, more or less. And he's ordered, I don't know, is it 2 for the price of 1 or something? He's ordered these massive hamburgers, and he has one hamburger in his left hand, he has another hamburger in his right hand, and he has the 2 hamburgers raised to his mouth, and he's so greedy, he's so gluttonous that he's not sure which one to eat, and he's trying to eat the 2 of them together. And that's kind of the joke of the advertisement. You know, you've got so much, you know, you've got so much food now that you don't know how to stuff your face. And this comes on foot of a clip, I would say, well, from a radio show. I was listening briefly to a radio show the other morning, and they were talking about fat phobia. So they were saying that, you know, these government shills, they were saying that the person who is obese is not responsible for being obese. It's not their fault, it's a disease. That's what they were saying, it's a disease. And I was thinking, well, if that's the case, right, let's say the morbidly obese person, if they're not responsible for eating around the clock, day in and day out, and not doing exercise, not looking after their health, then that means that they shouldn't be expected to go to the polling booth, because they obviously are like animals. They can't reason, they can't make decisions, they can't countenance cause and effect. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, that they are now trying to, I would say in a similar vein to depression. We never heard about depression, like, you know, someone being depressed. When I was growing up, I never heard about it. And I think from the mid-90s on in Ireland, they started talking about it all the time, on the TV, on the radio. Depression. And funnily enough, ironically enough, hearing about depression all day would make you depressed. But yeah, they're now saying that obesity is a disease. It's not down to the fat fuck. The fat fuck eating tubes of Pringles, you know, as snacks between meals, you know, or fucking big tub of Häagen-Dazs between meals. It's not due to the fat fuck walking around, you know, not walking, actually, using a mobility scooter. You know, it's not due to the fat fuck just being so lazy they won't do any exercise at all. You know, they won't even walk down the stairs, never mind walk up the stairs. So yeah, to me this is another sign of the civilizational decline, and what Stoddart would call I think, biological reversion, where we're going backwards. And these morbidly obese types would not survive. in a pre-civilizational environment, and they are not of the stock that would bring forth civilization and improve upon it. Far from it. The same way the people we're bringing in now, they're coming in, and it can only be to destroy civilization, European civilization, because we only have to look around us now to see that these are not custodian material. Until soon.